Welcome to At the Table. I'm Dr. Schuyler and I'm here with Dr. Megan Epps. Today, we're going to dive into talking about a rich life. And that doesn't mean like financially rich, but it could mean totally the life that you've always dreamed of. So, your ideal life and how you might be a lot closer to that life than you really realize. And this is something that you and I talk a lot about, Megan, because it's not really, this is not a financial episode. Well, it is, but we're not going to like run numbers with you. This is more about your dream life and how it fits with your family values and how to build it and get really specific so that you can actually work to the lifestyle that is going to fill your cup. Because a lot of people, I think, are going around life in just automatic mode, cruise control. And they're like thinking, I've got to just save, 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 save. I got to cut my budget as low as possible for someday. And they're only looking towards the future, which is good. We do need to plan for the future, but you can't only focus on the future and then forget about the now.
Yes. This is a topic that we do talk about a lot because money is ultimately a means and a tool for us. And yet, obviously, there's a ton of emotion behind it. And we are very attached to it as human beings because we live in a society where we look at if we just had enough, we could have everything we've ever wanted. And it's been this way for a very long time, right? We definitely, it's a huge part of American culture. But for Native women, our goal and who we're working with is creatives, leaders, entrepreneurs, people who actually have more autonomy in their lives or someone who's looking to have that. When you are somebody who's building something, when you are leading a team, when you are creating something, when you are running a business, you can get stuck in the thick of it where the everyday can easily make you feel like I'm sludging through just to work so hard. And we sort of forget all these other aspects of life, which is a big part of Innate Women and what we've created is we need to start paying attention to all the aspects of life, including things like play, our relationships outside of sometimes just our immediate family, our way we interact in our world and the community we build. Because when you are working so hard, it is so easy to get stuck in these blinders where you aren't actually fully recognizing what you've done, how far you've come, everything you've achieved. And something we realize is when we and for other people take a step back and you take more of an audit of your life, you have this opportunity to go, oh, I actually am so much closer to living the life that I'm dreaming of than I realized. We also live in this world with social media is giving us these pictures of like what we're supposed to want. If you don't define it yourself, the world will define it for you. And as a result, you end up chasing and feeling your FOMO or at a loss for something you didn't even want in the first place. So a lot of what I like to do is take this audit of life, like one, defining what you actually want. And then how close actually are you to that? And financially, what do you actually need to achieve or to get you closer to that goal if you're not there yet?
So, a lot of actually what we're going to be talking about is exactly what you mentioned, Megan. It's more of a mindset thing. One, you had said, once I have this dollar amount, then I'll make it or whatever. We see that in every aspect of high achieving women's and just people's lives. When I can do this, then I'll be happy. When I have this, then I'll be happy. And that is totally not the case. You need to find happiness where you are, and then you can drive to whatever your goal is. You can be happy at any, well, I think within reason, at almost any income level, you can find happiness and fulfillment and a well-lived life. It's just being smart and defining what your values are and what it is you and your family really appreciate and want to spend your money towards, because not everyone's ideal lifestyle and rich lifestyle is going to look at the same. Yours is going to look super different than mine, Megan. Like we'll have crossovers for sure because we have a lot of the same interests, but the things that you and Frank focus to pour your money into will look different than what me and Carrick do.
Well, on a note on money, one something that I find what you said is like, does it make you happy or not? Money is ultimately, I think it makes your life easier.
Mhm.
I think to pretend it doesn't is insane. The whole world's like when people are like, oh, like you don't need money for happiness. I actually agree with that. You do not need money for happiness because if you are a happy person, you will be happy at any point in your life. To be honest, people who just tend to be more happy tend to find joy in all aspects of life. And people who tend to be not as
Melancholic.
joyful
Yeah.
will also feel that way. No matter how much money you have, you might still have that. And that's a different aspect to be focusing on. It's actually not a financial thing with happiness, but it does make things easier and it makes moving in the world easier, which is why it needs to be discussed and used as a tool. But what you really have to look at is money and increasing wealth will only, it will exemplify who you are as a person. So if you are somebody who is very giving, like when you don't have a lot, you'll probably become more giving as you gain money. If you're somebody who is a really frugal person, those people are still
It
frugal, but they
doesn't
have a lot of
change. Yeah.
money. Yeah. But if somebody is like not a kind person, money is just going to show more of that unkindness. But if you are a kind person, it can also show more of that kindness. So once again, it is just a tool. And there's a whole money mindset, which is not what we're going to discuss here. But that is a different topic we'll be talking about. But just for that note on it, is money is when we look at it, it's not really defining happiness. It's just making life a little bit easier to move in this world. And so we do need to have it. We do need to be having financial goals. But what we're talking about today is how do we figure out what that looks like in life and abundance and other aspects as well? Sure. The very first thing to do, in my opinion, is to start to define what life you actually want to live. And I don't think enough people have actually stopped in life and thought, what do I really want out of life? What are my high values?
I think loosely people have an idea of like, oh, that would be nice, or someday I would love to do this. But we're talking about getting very specific. Sit down. If you're married, you need to sit down with your partner and you guys need to write it out. Our ideal lifestyle, our rich life looks like this. And some like little examples would be like personal for Carrick and I would be when we fly, we're going to do Comfort Plus or higher, or we're going to spend the money we're going to focus on our son's education. We will pour money into that because that's a high value priority for us. And it could be little things. Maybe you love fresh flowers in the house. So you're going to say, we're always going to have fresh cut flowers in the house. It could be little things to the really big things, but it
Yeah.
needs to be specific.
And a lot of people, I think it goes back to social media. They might define it where it's, well, I want to do things that I'm seeing on Instagram, but those aren't real. They're they're not as people aren't actually doing what they say they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things where it's like people will pretend to eat the food that they're showing you, or they're not even necessarily even going to that location. They stop in, take pictures, and then leave. They're not actually having the experiences they're showing you. One of the things that stuck with me before is there's a whole group of people. We've heard this, I think, about like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think it's one of my favorite quotes. And it's people don't want $1 million, they want to spend $1 million. The goal isn't just to spend $1 million. It really is to have it to be able to live the life you want. And that's why we talk about defining it. You really have to figure out, are you somebody who just wants to spend money and just show off online? If you are, it's probably not the right spot for you to hang out. If you're not, and you're like, well, no, I really want to build something, or ways that you can move in life and use money is, and start defining it, like what Skylar talked about for her own personal way that she has defined how to use it for, I think, looking at how do you want to spend your time? So money can give you time freedom. And how do you want to spend that time? It's not like, yes, traveling. I love to travel. So it is one of my high priorities. I don't want to just travel. I want to experience culture. So I want to go to places that are very different than home. I don't want to just go sit on a beach. I want to go someplace really different and have a really unique experience. I will spend much more money than I probably should on that because that's a really high value for me. But for you, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to feel like, oh, I want to travel the world. I want to buy a boat. I want to do this and that. Experiences are really important. But for some people, I think you can also define it. This is your permission to do it. Maybe you just want to have a really big garden. And maybe you want to make sure, like, you want to be able to stay home and take care of your kids, or you want to have certain hours a day to be able to create if you're creative, or you need more time to build a community that you're working on or structuring, or you have this one dream to build something, a certain business, but you haven't had that opportunity yet. this is where that financial comes into in these goals too. I think looking at, I want to do these things and defining what kind of education do you want your kids to have? What kind of home life do you want to create in home that you want? Do you need a cleaner to come in and help you? Do you need and then can you afford that? Like more people than you realize might be able to afford somebody to come in one time a month and do a deep clean in your house.
So I think a good thing that you touched on was if you're trying to figure this out, and I think for a lot of people, their true core ideals of a dream life and their vision of it gets muddled with things from the outside, the
Hmm.
social media, friends, family, whatever. What you really need to ask yourself is what brings me joy and what brings me ease?
That's a good.
Because right now, for you, what brings you joy is going to you guys just spent 2 weeks in Shanghai and it looked amazing. For me, that makes me feel a little stressed thinking about going there with my family and a 3-year-old.
I will say they are very kid friendly.
I'm sure it would be
Yeah.
amazing. But right now, that looks different. We're
Yeah.
talking about getting a pop up camper, which, if you're thinking about like a dream rich life, who's like, pop up camper? Our son loves to be outside, he loves to play in the dirt. We would have a lot of freedom of where we'd want to go. We just take our truck and our pop up camper, pack up it, and head out and have fun and then come home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a whole group of people who feel unheard in this world because you see this stuff online and you're like, well, I really just want to go out to the mountains and be able to spend
Yeah.
a week in the mountains with my
Pool.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are people who just want that. And we love that. Like that's one of ours. We like to be able to go and have weekend adventures. And they're not glamorous. Like you said, like it doesn't look glamorous online to be like, oh, we're doing this. But like there's so much joy in it. If it brings you like to go out, sit around a fire with your family and create those memories, that is a goal worth working towards. And that's good enough. Like we don't have to define and be like, I want to live a life on a yacht. Like if you want to, I love that for you. But I don't think that's what a majority of people actually want to do. I think a majority of people want to love their family, have them be very safe, and create a life where there is this security and freedom to do what they want. And so part of that is if you go, okay, now you have all the money in the world, how are you going to spend your time? I don't think enough people know how to define it because we're not spending enough time thinking about that.
Hmm.
And we have. So, like, I know that, like, for me, my goals are I do want to travel at least 2 to 3 times a year to places that are on my list. So I have this like whole list of places that I want to see culturally. And some of them are like natures and hikes and long walks I want to do and adventures. And then others are more like cultural experiences. I want to go see how people live in this area. I want to go eat the food here and I want to just sit at a cafe and, watch people walk by. I want to have this experience in this town or the city or go to these rural, whatever that is for me. I have a whole list of that. But then I also love time where I just get to grow my own food and create recipes. And it's not very glamorous, but it actually brings me a huge amount of joy is to do that. And then I also want time to be able to have a community and spend with my friends. Like time is a huge commodity that money can buy back. That matters to me is having dates with my husband and having time with friends and getting to have meetups. And if I, don't get to do that, I feel like life is a little bit less enjoyable because then you're just like grinding it out and you're not. And for what, right? If you don't have a community, and that's how you define it. How you define community as well. When you start to lay this out and say, okay, let's say you're somebody who wants to do the trips or whatever you want. You might not be able to do 4 in a year, but you might be able to do 1.
Hmm.
And you might be able to do it exactly how you want to do it. It's closer, like once we start defining it, and you start doing that life audit, most people are much closer to the life they want to live than they realize.
Yes. And a good place to start, because I know you so well, Megan, everything you just said, I was thinking, oh, okay. So she just gave an example of her and Frank's, one of each of her and Frank's family values. So the travel to a new place, you guys I know have a high value in learning and experiencing new things. And then what was the next one you said?
Nature, being outside.
Nature, being outside, freedom was one of
Hmm.
them, the
And
community.
community.
So what does that look like? So instead of just like freedom. We want freedom. You guys are creating an office that is very sustainable without you physically being there. So if you wanted to go and take the time off, you are creating a lifestyle where you could plug someone in to cover for you so you could leave. So I think it really starts with family values, and then you build from there. So the dream trip, and I would start with, if you have a dream trip, don't start with, okay, here's our budget, $5,000 or whatever. Start with, this is the experience we want, and then back engineer it from there. Then you can say, okay, this is the dream and vision. How are we, and then what fits in our budget from there? And then you can cut where you see less important. Oh, maybe instead of this high resort level, we'll go more moderate and have the same type of experience.
Hmm. So I think, okay, so first, let's go back. We need to define values if you're not sure. So we actually have, you guys did this too, family values.
Yes. We
I
got
did.
values all over the place. We have family values. I have office values. I know you guys do too. Values are going to be your northern star for every decision in your life, whether it's in
Yes.
business or personal. So if you don't have really clear-cut values, you just start there.
Okay. Yes. And so we do have linked a value exercise you can do that we actually do. So we defined our family values. We have our office values. They're very well defined. And this workout is not just like, I have a word. It literally forces you to, in a way, reckon with your life. You have to ask the question. As I've talked about before, you must question yourself. Do I actually believe in this or do I want to believe in it? And you look for the evidence in your life of what your values are. And so when your family, you come together with your family and you define what evidence do we have? What are our values? And if they're not, if you don't like them, it's an opportunity to change them and start working towards better values. I'll go over quickly what ours are. And we have evidence for all of this. So we have grit, which is defining, or for us is we are going to do hard things. Always. If it doesn't matter if there's a barrier or a wall, we're going to say, okay, we acknowledge there's an obstacle, but we're going to keep going. Health, because you cannot have wealth without health. It's so true. Plus, we're in the health field, but it really helps define it because one of our biggest goals for us that we talk about all the time is longevity. Both of us want to be able to be 80 or 90 and be able to still go hiking. That is one of our biggest goals that we have. And so we actually take action steps today to be able to do that. Create. So create is on a couple different levels. One, we're going to create the life we want and really define it and not let society define it for us. And also, I believe in creativity and that it's a human base that every single person needs. Family, we call it F1 Rising. As we rise and do better, we are going to bring our family with us, even though family can be very difficult at times. We're not leaving our siblings behind. We don't believe in abandonment of family or leaving them. We believe in helping elevate everybody in our family. And then curiosity. Ultimately, we always want to be learning. Reading, education, it matters to us on a very high level. So we don't want to be one of those people that's like, we know enough in life. We always want to be learning. And so when you know that, and then you go back and listen to what I said, like the things I want to do, it's things that are about creating something. It's going to be, it's curiosity. It's spending time with family. It's working on our health and having that opportunity. And then it's the grit to go ahead and do all of that. My favorite thing about values is it makes it really easy to say no.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll say yes because it sounds good. It sounds good on paper. It feels good. But and then they get down this road of a goal or working towards something. And then they look and they go, oh, I really didn't want that. It doesn't really matter that much to me. And when you start with defining your values, which I really encourage, it is free. Go do it on our website at innatewomen.com.
Everyone just needs to do it. You really, really do.
When you start to define your values, it makes it really easy to be like, no. Like if someone's like, hey, we got this great opportunity to buy a boat and you guys can go out every weekend. I'm never buying a boat. I don't want it. It doesn't fit within how we want to, spend our time. Our leisure time is very rarely just laying around. I think there's a whole group of people who are like, I just want a beach vacation. And I'm not against that. Like if that works for you, it just isn't what's right for us. But it sounds good on paper and it looks beautiful on Instagram is to go to these islands and to be on a boat. And like, I actually love watching people who sail along, and are like living on their boat. But with our values, we know that's not for us. And I think that's super important, like to be able to say no to certain opportunities in life or chasing certain things.
Yeah. It makes things easier. Because you could just take it back and say, does this fit? And you can be like, nah,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. And honestly, we have decision fatigue, especially if you're like a business owner
Oh
or
my
you're like,
gosh.
it's exhausting.
I think one of the hardest things, and this is a skill that anyone can learn, is decisiveness. And in our culture today, we have a million decisions to make every day. And not only do we have a lot of decisions to make, we have a lot of options within those decisions. So it's not like it used to be where you'd go to the grocery store, there's two types of bread. Now there's an entire aisle of bread, but also in the bigger things. And I think what we need to do is focus in, get the information. I'm not saying just be careless with decisiveness. Decisiveness is taking the information, making a decision, and then committing to it. But you don't need to wait 6 months to decide this is the car insurance we're going to go with. You need to get the information and say, this works for us, and then just move on.
Hmm.
Your
Yeah.
time's important.
It is really important. And people will spend hours on decisions. When you start defining your values, you don't have to. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
don't, you're so many decisions already made for you because of your values. And then from your values, you start defining the life you want. What does that look like? If we know family is important, how is that being prioritized? And when you start looking at your prioritization list, you might come to realize that, well, maybe it's not getting the attention it wants. Like maybe you're somebody who's working too much and not spending time with your kids. You need to restructure then your time to make sure that is, you know, showing up in your life and you're seeing these values. If health matters to you, but you never work out, which I think happens to a lot of us, even in the health field. I know there was a time where I had to do that and I was like, oh, I'm not consistent anymore in my workouts. And I had to restructure my schedule so that I was able to be more consistent with it because I wasn't living within my values. And therefore, it's a little bit harder to get closer to the life that you're looking to live. And you need to make sure these are showing up and then schedule your time accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who say they don't have enough time, I know life is busy, but you still spend time on social media. You still have TV shows you watch.
I always find that excuse to be just an excuse. If someone says, I don't have the time, people will find the time to do whatever it is they really want to do.
It's really just saying it's not a priority.
Yeah, you're just saying it's not a priority to you.
And
I
it
have
might
a
not
question.
be. It might not be a priority too, by the way. If you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to do this, then I don't think that's a real value for you.
Then you should, yeah, just reevaluate if that's
Mhm.
something that you really want
Yeah.
or not. So we talked at the top of the podcast about how we need to define what a rich or an ideal lifestyle is for us and not let society creep in on those visions for us. And I wanted to ask you, Megan, was there a time or a point where you realized, oh, this vision or desire or want isn't actually authentically mine? It was something that was planted for me, either by like family or an outside
Oh
source.
my God. Yes. We all have this, by the way. All of it. Everybody does. Everybody does. I think everyone should think of these examples, but like, that's a great question.
Mm.
Okay. So one of the biggest ones is in business. When
Mhm.
I grew up in a chiropractic, as we know from like other stories, and I showed up and I was always told, see high numbers, work really hard, but nobody ever defined what that actually meant. And so with my personality, I, especially from 2020 to 2024, I ignored all of my values, which is why it's so important to me. And all I did was grind out in our office. I was like doing, not only was I a provider, but I was running all of the back of the house, the whole business side of it. And I'm doing the social media. And then you have to do team meetings. Every hour was spent on this office to build. And then I got to the goals that I had, everyone told me I was supposed to have. Like, this is what it means to have a great office. And I hit it. And I was like, and we hit it really quickly. And I went, okay, well, this is it. And it's not that I don't love what we created, but it wasn't within my values enough because I love our business, but it never gave me when I ran it that way, the life that was fulfilling to me. It just burned me out and it re-triggered autoimmune issues and I was exhausted all the time. I never saw friends at all. It was just hard in general. And it was a hard life. And I had a lot of on paper success. And it would be easy to go to like seminars and be like, oh, yeah, we're doing this. People are like, ooh, that's great. And I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing. Look how good we're doing. You get that validation from your peers and, coaches. But then like, I wasn't happy because that isn't enough for me. Like, I do like making money because of the freedom it gives me, but it is actually not one of my high motivators. I'm actually more motivated by connection and the ability to create things is my biggest motivator. Like, I just love that part of it. And so when we did our value work, we went back and none of the stuff that matters to me other than grit was really showing up in life. And so we restructured our life from it. And well, there's two things. One, I feel ridiculously more happy now. But two, the most important thing is our office and our success didn't go away. And so I think so many people fear that if I don't give every single thing to this one thing, then everything else will fall apart. And that's just not true. It's really about just, you can restructure your business to nourish your life, or you can continue to grind in business and ignore your life. And the outcomes are vastly different. And so that was probably the biggest thing more on like a very personal level, where people were like, this is what it means to be successful. And then I realized that is the key to burnout and to stress and to actually a lot of health concerns as a female, which we'll talk about this in future podcasts. But I just couldn't sustain it.
I think that's really on point for a lot of women in our generation right now, because we were sold this story of, you got to hustle, you got to be a boss babe, you're going to put in a 40+ hour week, and then you're going to go home and be the perfect wife and perfect mother. And it's just not realistic, and people can't sustain it. You could do it. I think people can do it and have done it
Oh, yeah.
for
Especially high
years.
achieving women. You're
Yeah,
capable of doing it.
you can get it done, but you're going to pay on the back end of it. Whether it's your health, whether it's your relationships, something's got to give. So is it worth it? You have to decide for
Well, I think the
yourself.
biggest lesson is I still do have the practice of my dreams. We just defined it better. So like we still have a large practice that does exceptionally well. It's just the evidence for me was I thought I had to be the driver
Mhm.
constantly right there pushing everybody to achieve it. And when you restructure and rebuild a team and you have people in the right spots and you allow them to do their job well, you actually can have more freedom of time
Yeah.
to to do other things and to we're so worried that if we take a foot off the gas, everything will fall apart. And it was a legit fear of mine. Like, I literally thought if I stop for a second, we will lose everything and be impoverished. And it sounds irrational, but I think so many entrepreneurs have this fear that if I let go of the reins so tight, if I just loosen them a little bit, everything will go away. Everything I worked for will go away. And I'm here to tell you that's actually not true. I'm not saying you just drop the reins. You just have to restructure and sometimes put them in other hands or trust other people to be in leadership positions. But it is possible to redefine your business and give you freedom where you can also have a healthy life. And that is fully possible. I think it's just scary to do.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people without the evidence are like, maybe that worked for you, but it wouldn't work in real life. It would definitely work. But it does start with knowing your values too, because that's going to give you that motivation. Because, I wasn't my healthiest then. I've had to like work to regain my health because I lost a lot of that by being this boss babe you talk about. And
Mhm.
like, I've said this a million times, but it'd be a lot easier if I had a wife at home. And my husband and I are actually really great equal partners. We don't have like a thing where I have to take care of the house. He does his fair share of cleaning and does the dishes. And like, I'm very lucky with a partner, but we also both work. So, a lot of the defined success for women is still defined on men who have stay-at-home wives. And it's just
Oh,
not
yeah.
feasible.
It's not a fair or equal comparison.
No. And so we're forcing ourselves, like women are doing double the work still in
Mhm.
today's age, still with everything. And that's why I think you have to start defining what your success looks like, because otherwise, when the world defines it, it is a very masculine definition. And like, I don't think we're meant to work the same way men work. I actually think we need to work different. And when we work different, I actually think we have wildly high levels of success. I think women are natural leaders, but we need to lead in our way, not in the way that a patriarchal society is like, you need to lead this way. This is what a leader is. And you're like, well, I don't think that's accurate.
Or
How
that
we
would get you
define
in
it.
like Forbes 500.
Yeah, it's just like that's not what the goals are. The goals are to live a good life, a life where you have joy on a regular basis, where you have freedom to grow relationships and be, you know, be the person that you believe you can be. And if your life's not moving you towards that, like, what are you doing? Like, is it
Hmm.
really worth it?
Yeah. I really relate to that. I think a lot of women could also relate to that.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have the same question for you? Do you have like a moment where you were like, "Ooh, this isn't working"?
I think that I went through the same metamorphosis as you did with the grinding and the working, but it happened before I even started my office. So I structured my office around our family values. And while I think a lot of people in our field might look at my office and say, well, that's not really that successful of an office, it is very successful for our family. But I think the catalyst of that was me becoming a mom because another paradigm shift I had was I always thought I would just have a baby, take whatever maternity leave and then go right back to work and get back to the hustle. And when I was pregnant, I was like, yeah, no, I am going to stay home.
Yeah.
And so that was a really hard lifestyle change for me because I had a mom who had to go back to work and work really hard and who wanted to see me work because, I got this degree. No one in my family has a degree as high as I do. No. And then she was like, I want to see you use it. And then my in laws are very career high oriented people. So it was kind of, and society, like I had told you a story about I had a patient when I said, I'm going to stay home with him. And she was like, no, you don't want to do that. So I had to kind of break those pressures down and put our values first, that our family comes first, the care for our son comes first, my happiness and health comes first, and then structure everything else around it because my dream of having um a practice and still working with women was still there, but it's going to look very different with these other factors.
I think you have a good example of pressure from the outside coming in. So that's, I think, the hardest part. When you define your life and it doesn't look like people want it to look like, prepare yourself for pushback.
They're
But
going to
this
tell
is,
you.
they will, but and it hurts. It hurts. It will probably, I'm sure it hurt your feelings if your mom or your mother-in-law or your, even your peers don't approve. Because one of the things you have mentioned before is going to seminars. And you're not the only one. I've had so many female chiropractors who have, I call it the rebellion, and said, I'm going to define a practice that works for me. And they do it. And they're wildly successful based on their definition of success. And then they go to the seminars who go, this is what successful is. And then, of course, in our field, everyone's like, what are your numbers? What are your numbers? Nobody ever asks what your
Mhm.
profit is. Just what are your numbers? And there's shame with it. And if you feel this like, oh my
100%.
God, and you start doubting things. And that's why I think these values and when you define your own life, it always gives you that anchor back. When you come home from something like that and you're like, oh gosh, am I doing enough? Am I doing well? You can turn to your values and your definition of the life you want to live and be like, oh, I I actually am successful based
Mhm.
on what I define success as, which I think is one of the most rebellious and wonderful things in life to be able to do. And to
Mhm.
choose your own path is just admirable in every way.
Actually, every time I go to a seminar, I have to remind myself I am successful for what our family values are. Because even like the best seminars that we go to with people that we really love who are not pushy, and you know who I'm talking about, who are like, your family comes first, you need to value your family. I can come back and be like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. I need to make more money. And and my business is growing. Like compare my numbers are
You're
good
doing
for
great.
for
Yeah.
for what I work 2 half days a week. Come on now. I'm with my son 100%. I've never had to put him in daycare. And I think if people hear that in our field, they'd be like, "Wow, that's amazing." But if you're only looking at number value and what your gross is, I'll never compete
Hmm.
with the people who are in there
Yeah. But if your
5 days
value
a
is to
week.
be able to see your son grow up
Mhm.
and you've created a life that you can do that, how valuable is that? So many of the people we don't really know, other people who are like critical of your life at all, you don't really know what their values are. I mean, they're telling
Mhm.
you it might not be family. Even if they say it
Yeah.
is, it's obviously not.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well,
I do believe that this is something everyone kind of needs to prepare themselves for mentally because you're going to have to insulate, not remove yourself from society, obviously, but insulate yourself and remind yourself, no, that person's definition of success is not mine. And that's okay.
yeah, yeah. I think you can also find inspiration in other people. So, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, one of us, you're like, oh, I relate to that. Or you're somebody who is seeking people who are more into defining their own path and really helping with that, I would love for you to join our network of women. Reach out to us, visit innatwomen.com. You can do all our social medias too. Cause I feel like it's lonely too when you start to do this because it's so easy to get stuck in this is the way things are. This is what everyone else is doing. And especially like if you're living in a neighborhood, well, everyone has this new car all the time. You don't have to have that all the time. There's so many different things. If it's a value of you to have it, you should have it. But like if it's just causing financial strain, you don't need to. It's
Hmm.
like I think people, we see it around it. We always feel like it's part of society as a human nature to think we need what everyone else has because it does help bond us. But you need to be around other people who are defining their own lives and can help inspire you to live the life that you're really meant to live. Because I do truly believe the joy that comes with it is like no other when you do start to step away and say, this is what I want to do.
Hmm.
And I think for a lot of women, I think most people are closer. We talked about this before, closer than they realize.
Hmm.
And so when you write down, I think you should one thing you should do is just like, once you define your goals, then you just sit down and like do a list of everything you've ever wanted. Like, what are the stuff like in life that you're thinking this is what you want to do or what you want life to look like or opportunities? And they can be tiny things like I
Little
want
stuff,
to,
big stuff.
yeah, I want to
A
always be able to,
facial every month.
yeah, or I want to pick up my child from school every
Yeah.
day. Like that's a goal, for you. Or you want to have date night once a month or once a week with your husband, or
Hmm.
you want to be able to have a girls like whole day with your friends, or you want to start growing your own food, or you do want to do certain trips, whatever you want. I want you to write every single thing down. And then when you look at that list, circle your top 5. What are the 5 things you really want in your life? And start like eliminating stuff. And really, what do you want? You have to get down to 5. And I think when you look at that, there's gonna be 2 things. One, most people I think are closer to being able to do that. They just need a few tweaks in life, or you might even be already doing a lot of those things that you want to do. We just don't realize that we're in the grind. So we
Hmm.
just need that evidence of being like, oh, life is good. Like it allows you to be more grateful too. Like, oh, I am closer to what I want. And I'm being weighed down by all these small things, but really, like, I can pick my child up. I do get a chance to work out at least 3 times a week. Like, these are the things that, are for they're in your values and they're your things that you want to create that life. And so when you start to see that and that evidence that you are closer to it, I think it makes it more inspiring to continue the work to fill that gap between where you
Hmm.
are and where you want to be.
Yeah. And we've talked more about the mindset part and the value part of your rich life. If you want to get into the nitty gritty of the actual numbers and financials, my favorite person, I know you like a couple people, but my favorite person for this specifically is Ramit Smithy, or is that his name?
Is he the one that I will teach you how to be rich?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Carrick and I read he has a really great book, Money for Couples. And he breaks it down where he does everything by percentages. So it's not really you need to put this dollar amount away every month or year for savings. It's a percentage of your income. So it makes it whether you make 75,000 a year or 300,000 a year, you're going to have different levels of discretionary income or discretionary spending and all of that, but you're going to be able to fit within your values where your money goes to. I think he does a really good job.
I think defining your financial goals are important too, and how much you need to put away for, not just retirement, but also just for like having to be able to do what you want to do.
Emergency fund. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or how much do you need to actually do the stuff that you really want to do in your life?
Hmm.
Some stuff's gonna be free or it's just an initial cost. And then some things like you can create, like I have a travel account. Like
Hmm.
I like to put away like a certain amount in my head. I'm like, this is what is going to travel. And so it's like defined. Um, and so that helps like keep everybody on track. But we're not gonna say like there aren't financial limitations for some people. Like that's definitely real. But I do think it's possible to overcome it. I think it's possible to live the life you want, even within a moderate amount of financial income.
Hmm. I think I'm going to make an assumption here. For our listeners, the people that we connect to, you're probably better off than you realize. And it's more of a mindset shift and a value definition to really get clear on what you want to put your resources into and kind of let go of all the stuff that is really not serving you.
Yeah. Might have a budget cut if you cut the things that aren't serving you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But it's easy to let things like kind of creep in uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you don't really want or need. It's just, there.
Hmm. Yeah. I think more than anything, I also think like time management is going to be key for a lot of people.
Hmm.
In addition to the financial part, is a lot of time wasted on things that don't actually matter. So I think doing a time audit is really important too, because I think people will be very surprised at how much time is spent on stuff that should not be prioritized.
Like what? Give me an example. I mean,
So,
obviously, I know scrolling on your phone.
yeah, we all know that. Yes, but I also think like something you could do if one person cleaned the house all the time. Like I grew up where only my mom cleaned. None of us really learned good cleaning skills until we were adults and had to teach ourselves because she did all the work. And I always think how much of her time could have been to more things she loved to do in life
Mm.
if we all had roles in our family and helped
Although I
more.
do think your mom actually loves doing laundry.
Yeah, she still like can afford help and she refuses. I was like, why don't you have someone like come clean your house? She's like, no. I said, okay. It is a joy for her. But I also think she just doesn't trust other people.
Yeah.
But I think like one of the things that really motivated me as like a woman growing up is when you watch your mom and you go, do I want her life?
Mm.
And I feel like so much of my mom's life was dedicated to everybody else but herself.
Yeah.
And I think we look at our time, how much busy work is done that one, either other family members could help with. So like making sure tasks at home are fairly out there. And if they're not, if you're doing all the work and you're running a business and you're doing all the work at home, you need to have some conversations with your husband. And if your kids are old enough, they need to all chip in. I think that's going to be really important for time for women. I also think saying no and having boundaries. I think a lot of women have a very hard time saying no, and they become, especially at the age we're at, caretakers. They become asked to do a lot of stuff that other people could easily step in and do. And they just get asked and they say yes. So they get filled with other people's stuff instead of working on their own life.
Mm.
And it ends up taking away from their quality of life because they end up picking up a lot of the unpaid, ungrateful work that happens in families. And I think it's very important to start being like, hey, everyone here is going to chip in. If you have elders that you're caring for, other siblings, if they're around, should help. Or financially figure out what it can be to hire some help with it or cleaning the house. Like one of the things to free up your time is having someone come in and help out with that cleaning. And I'm not saying it has to be like all the time and financially, every week, but even like 1 or 2 times a month can make a huge difference in that freedom. It's very like specific to people and what their definition is. But I think if you are somebody who like doesn't love cooking and you spend all this time cooking, I think doing meal prepping is a way to save time. If you really look at your life, there is a lot of stuff that's just like, how can we be more efficient with our time? And we're just not auditing our time. We're just like, oh, we have to go do these things.
Yeah.
And running errands. Like sometimes we don't
I
have
get
to
what
do
you're
that.
saying.
Yeah.
Some of it is just planning too. Because, I mean,
Yes.
there's so many things now, luckily, that can streamline your time.
Hmm.
Instacart, grocery delivery. There's ways to save time. having someone mow your lawn, even if it's like a neighborhood kid. You don't even have to
Hmm.
spend a whole bunch of money. It's just more, are you willing to let go of the control uh,
Yeah. And I
and
think the other thing
delegate? And I think
is
that's hard for people.
well, I think it's also defining your time. So let's say I'll use an example of we're growing a new business. And so I think a lot of people have dreams of doing certain things, new things, or maybe you want to do like a new hobby. And so people think like, oh, hobbies are frivolous. They can always take a back seat. But if that hobby brings you joy on a regular basis and is something specific for you and only you, so many women don't have anything that's just for them. That's just theirs.
Mm.
And even the top successful women still are giving themselves to their business, to everybody else. Like, what is yours? What is just yours in life? And I think being selfish with your time and saying this 1 hour is mine. And you put such harsh boundaries like this is my time for me. Because that's also really necessary for life too. And so that's like the time audit is like all of your time going to everything else but your values. Is all your time being spent doing all this busy work, but not on the things that matter. And yes, there's gonna be a certain amount of it, but a majority of your time need to be going towards things that matter. And so auditing time and figuring out what you need maybe financially to help with this and to do, and you might already be able to do it. It's just a matter of pulling the trigger, but like, how can you make life a little easier for yourself to be able to live the life you want? And if you never make time for the life you want, you're never going to get it. And that's really what I'm talking about here is creating that space or building what you want to build.
Okay. I love that.
I
Because
feel like,
I see that in my life too. You get up and you're already going. And then at the end of the day, you're like, I didn't do anything for myself today. And by that time, you're too tired. You're like, I'm just going to go to bed.
mm-hmm,
So I'm with you, Megan. Put a harsh boundary on it. And I would say schedule it for 1 year feeling like you're going to do it. Whether
mm-hmm,
like your time is you get up early, you go for a walk by yourself, you're
mm-hmm.
quiet, you listen to a podcast, whatever it is, make sure you do that. And then I think you'll feel lighter throughout the
Yeah,
day.
I think so too. Or like if health is one of your concerns, like you mentioned, like going for a walk, like when you have that time, like this is my hour to work out and like nobody can schedule anything during that time. That is your hour to work on your health because that's what matters to you.
Hmm.
Because I do hear that with a lot of women, like I just don't have time
Hmm.
to work out. And in a way, like I do agree that it feels like you don't have time. Like it definitely, especially if you have a family, like it feels if you're running a business, have a feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't have time. But I think it's making that hard sacrifice and saying, and those hard boundaries, which is difficult at first, and saying, no, this has to be done because when I have this time for myself, I'm a better mom, a better business person, and I'm happier.
Hmm.
And so it actually is a non-negotiable that feels like a negotiable.
Yeah. And like you said, Meg, it's hard,
It is
but
hard.
it's so
Yeah,
worth it.
it's absolutely hard. But if you're listening to this, I'd love to hear, like, send us an email or comment. I'd like to hear what is the thing that you really want to prioritize, but haven't figured out how to yet. I'm curious.
I love hearing that from people. And then I also love the question of what made you realize you were striving for something or doing something that actually wasn't, you actually didn't want.
Yes, that you
Yeah.
don't really want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, wow.
Yeah. I think so many of us chase dreams that aren't really ours.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't really talk a whole lot about actual money, but
We did talk
we did
about
talk
abundance,
a lot of rich life and abundant life. Yeah.
which is really the whole point.
It's where it starts because the
Mm-hmm.
money's really just the the energy to create
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. But you have to have the dream and the vision first.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let that social media fool you. You don't
It's
need
all
to go
lies.
to Mexico and Europe every other month
I mean, unless you really want to.
unless that's your dream life. To me, that sounds like exhausting.
I will say, as much as I love to travel, we did 14 hours and then another 2 hours. So like 16 hours travel. It wore me out. I need to take a break from planes for like a couple
Yeah,
months.
how could it not?
Gosh, it's nothing like that. It's always been my fear traveling that far. And I was like,
A 2 hour flight with my toddler, I'm like, "Oh, here we go.
here
We're
you go.
gonna do
Yeah.
it." But
I can do, 8 hours isn't a problem, but that once you get over, like, once you sleep and watch a whole movie and it's 11 hours in, you go, Oh my God, we still have more time.
I think 6 to 8 hours is my cap for anything, whether it's a road trip
Hmm.
or a flight, which is a road trip in the air.
Yeah.
Um, you get to that 6 to 8 hours and you're like, enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like on our way, we like slept and woke up and then I watched um a whole movie and it was like a really long movie, like a 3 hour one. And then we still weren't there. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna go crazy at this point. This is wild. Oh, so I just start pacing, you know. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to leave listeners with, Skylar?
I mean, the thing that came to my mind when you said that was be resilient on the outside influence and only accept and go for what's truly yours. I think people just need to be authentic to themselves because that's where they're going to find their happiest dream life, rich life.
As well said. We'd
Yeah.
love to hear from you. And thanks for joining us at the table.
See you next time.